Did you know Pulau Ubin is one of Singapore's last remaining kampongs, where you can still experience village life, rich wildlife, and stunning natural landscapes? Do you know what makes it so unique? Let's find out.
Last time we spoke about, well, many often call it the secret island of Singapore, which is Sentosa, which is not a secret anymore.
No longer.
But today we are going to talk about the secret island of Singapore, which is Pulau Ubin.
Yes.
You used 3 words to describe it: rustic, nature, adventure.
Yeah.
Even I have not been to this island, right? So before we even get into rustic, how do you get to Pulau Ubin?
So, okay, compared to Sentosa, which, there are many ways you can get to Sentosa, right? You can drive, you can take the monorail, you can take the cable car, many ways to get there. You could probably swim if you wanted to. Getting to Pulau Ubin is slightly different in that you have to take a bumboat. So this is a small, it's not a ferry, it's not like a big, it can seat a maximum of 12 people, and it's a 20-minute boat ride from the easternmost point of Singapore. So that's Changi Village. And you pay 2 or 3 Singapore dollars or something like that. And you end up essentially at the jetty.
Yeah.
Now, when you get off at the jetty at Pulau Ubin, it's a fascinating experience. And I mean, for me, my fondest memories of Pulau Ubin is just getting off at the jetty and feeling like I've been transported back in time. And for a lot of Singaporeans, Pulau Ubin is really what Singapore used to be before we became this sort of very hyper-developed, modern, glitzy city, right? And I will always remember, getting off at the jetty and just smelling the smell of wood fire smoke, wood smoke, just burning logs.
Is that where the rustic bit comes from?
That's where the rustic bit comes from, because there's a very well-preserved and still to this day inhabited village right where the jetty is, that kind of just instantly transports you to what, again, life used to be back maybe 50, 60, 70 years ago.
So what's the nature bit of it? And you mentioned that you take a jetty or a bumboat from the easternmost point of Singapore, that is Changi Village.
Yes.
So I'm a plane spotter. I love spotting planes, right? And so is that a good place to also see the planes landing into Changi?
It's a great place, I will say, from the point that you take the bumboat. So Changi Village is a great place because it's right on the approach. And the other interesting thing is, on many times, depending on the approach, when you're coming into Singapore on an aircraft, you look out the window and you can see Pulau Ubin, and it's very distinctive because it's this boomerang-shaped island, and it's just forested all over. So that's where the nature is, right?
Okay.
Because essentially, it used to be an old mining quarry. The name Pulau Ubin, Pulau means island in Malay, and Ubin means granite, right?
Okay.
So it used to be where we mined a lot of our granite, and in fact, the causeway that links Singapore with Malaysia is made from granite from Pulau Ubin. Right?
Oh, wow.
So historically,
that's a good connection to
I know,
in,
exactly. So historically very important, but today a lot of these, old sort of mining sites have just been taken over by the jungle, the tropical rainforest, and you have these beautiful sort of trails through the forest. But one of my favorite things to do in Pulau Ubin is this place called Chek Jawa. Now, Chek Jawa is a wetland, right? So these are the mudflats essentially off sort of one side of Pulau Ubin, where you have incredible biodiversity. Singapore is in what is known as sort of the maritime golden triangle, where, when you look globally, the marine biodiversity in our neck of the woods that also encompasses Malaysia, Thailand, down to Indonesia and so on, you get these incredible coral reefs, you get these incredible communities of, marine fishes and different creatures, octopus, seashell, mollusks and so on, right? So fascinating biodiversity, and there's a wonderful boardwalk that you can take that goes right above the wetlands. And so at low tide, you actually see stunning varieties of things that, you don't expect to see so much nature in a city like Singapore. So that for me is where nature comes in.
And it's an easy day trip.
It's an easy day trip. Again, if you want to go and see some of the, wetlands, what you can do is look up the low tide timings. And it varies, across the entire month and by day. And there are these tours that you can go take with a naturalist that bring you out onto the wetlands to sort of a guided tour to what you're seeing.
So what's the adventure bit then?
So the adventure bit is, again, because it used to be a granite quarry, it's actually a very hilly island, right? So the tallest point is called Bukit Buaka.
Okay.
And there are all these trails that go up and down Bukit Puaka from all the different sides. And one thing to do there is to rent a bicycle, like a mountain bike,
Yeah.
and bike up and down the trail. And so it's internationally accredited as a mountain sort of biking park, right? And it's just a wonderful experience to essentially bike all the way up and down these very, very sort of windy jungle slopes and trails. And from certain points, you can see the old granite quarries that have now filled in with rainwater. And it's just stunning. I mean, it's nature in the way that Singapore does it. Used to be an old
Yeah.
granite quarry, but now just stunning vistas.
So that was Pulau Ubin, the secret island, as you called it.
Yes.
And I remember the last episode, you were like, okay, this is also a lush tropical
Yes.
island, but it's more than that. There's rustic, there's nature, there's
Yes.
adventure.
There's also durian trees,
Okay.
incidentally, in Pulau Ubin. So durian, of course, is that iconic Southeast Asian stinky fruit that we all love. And it's one of the few places where you get groves of these very old durian trees. And, similar to wine, the best durians come from really, really old trees. And this is where you get some of really good local durians that we have in Singapore. So it's on Pulau
Well,
Ubin.
I think we should definitely do an episode on the durian because
Yes.
it's banned on trains, it has all these
Exactly.
restrictions. And I mean, the listeners will also really like listening to that. But
Yeah.
what should our next episode be on?
So, okay, we've talked about durians, I guess. And the other big durian thing that people love to talk about in Singapore is a very iconic site. You probably have seen it. And it's called Esplanade Theatres
Yeah.
by the Bay. It's
Yeah.
right at Marina Bay. And when you see a picture of it, you'll know exactly what I mean by durian. So maybe we should be talking about that at the next episode.
Awesome. So on the next episode, let's do the Esplanade. And
Yes.
would you just use only the word durian to describe it or something else?
I mean, let's keep it as that. I think
For
that's
now.
like a good suspense, a cliffhanger, as it were.
Awesome. So the next time, let's just sit down
Yes.
and discuss the Esplanade of Singapore.
Yes.